buried alive, but he left a message.
What's it say?
Death is only the beginning.
On May 7th,
You must not read from the book! What?
the impossible will come true,
Has begun. The beginning of the end.
and the unimaginable will walk the earth. The Mummy. He's here. Rated PG-13. Starts...
This is, of course, a remake to the 1932 Boris Karloff film of the same name. It's part of the Universal Monsters. And you can definitely tell with this movie, they were trying to mix in a little bit of Indiana Jones in addition to trying to make it more of it's not just a straightforward horror adaptation of the original horror film. They've added in elements of Indiana Jones. And this is something that was in development for so many years. And Stephen Sommers, the director of this, basically pitched his idea as more of an adventurous or romantic take on the source material. You can see there's a lot more comedic elements into the film as well. And this is a film that went through so many different attempts to get this film made. George A. Romero was attached at one point to do it. Clive Barker was at one point attached to do it. Tom Cruise, before he eventually would star in the 2017 version, was actually offered the role of the main character in this, but he turned it down. Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck also turned it down too. But Brendan Fraser essentially got the job, seeing how he did very well with George of the Jungle that came out 2 years prior. And the film itself is... How do I put this? It's a pretty decent film. It's a film that really, it's not a bad film per se. There are elements where it definitely feels like they're trying to do something like an Indiana Jones type of adventure for a new generation by bringing in this element of the Mummy in here. And at times, it does work. You do buy into Brendan Fraser as the main character in this situation, and his relationship he has with Rachel Weisz in here. Arnold Vosloo as the villain can be threatening at times, but then again... We'll get to some of the most of the negatives with him later on down the road, because it's not really his fault. It's just the stuff that they have him doing this. But overall, the movie does look pretty impressive for the most part. I mean, the special effects in here sort of go back and forth, but the visual look of the film looks amazing for the most part. I mean, it definitely feels like there's a lot of effort being put into this. And it's funny because a lot of people, when they showed this to test audiences, they reacted poorly to the title of this because... The Mummy, they conjured up a lot of negative impressions of an old horror film, and then Universal basically decided to put an ad out during the Super Bowl to essentially bring people in to the idea that this could actually be something worth watching, and it kind of turned the film's prospects around overall, especially when they pushed it back from the big movie of the year, which we'll get to in a couple of weeks, but I think you know what I'm talking about, but I digress. Yeah, some of the negatives I have for this mostly come in the visual effects. Sometimes the visual effects look pretty cool, but at the same time, there are a lot of very, very dated special effects, especially on the Mummy himself. Like, there are shots in here where these effects were probably pretty impressive in 1999, but considering where we are now with technology and all that, they look pretty bad on a number of levels. Like, when Arnold Vosloo has to open his mouth up, I swear, there are elements in here that look like a cartoon character at times. Like, even though, I mean, this is more cartoonish than the DuckTales movie. I mean, that tells you everything you probably need to know about this. But at times it does look, the CG does work pretty well, and they do add in special practical effects, the effects that are actually there, and they do a pretty good job of managing it together. Even though there are a lot of times when you can definitely tell the difference between a practical effect and a visual effect pretty easily, especially nowadays if you watch this on 4K. But yeah, I don't think I have really much more to say about this. I never really grew up with the Mummy movies per se. I know these movies have a loyal fan base to them. They made a couple of these after this one, but just to me personally, it just never really clicked with me. Honestly, I tried to get into it many times. It was just never for me. I think it was just a little bit too much of the Indian. Let's make our own. It's basically Universal trying to make their own Indiana Jones style adventure, which. It did pay off for them in the end. It was a big hit when it came out. It did have this loyal following that it created its own franchise of films, including several spin-offs and all that. But, I don't know. Just me personally, I thought it was just okay. I don't think it's anything too spectacular or anything too groundbreaking. At times, there are some funny moments here and there. At times, there's some really good visual effects to it. But most of the time, it's a pretty generic story, honestly, and it doesn't really have that... And when the effects are bad, they are really, really bad, and... I don't know. It just didn't really. The ebb and flow didn't really work with me on this one. I know it has a loyal fan base to it, so if you like it, hey, more power to you. But to me, I just thought it was okay for what it was. But I'll give you this much: it certainly is better than anything that came after this film, because the sequels, for the most part, are pretty downright terrible. But we'll eventually get into those as we move along here. But not much more to say about this one. So that is The Mummy.
He was an outcast who became a hero. They were his forgotten battalion who became the enemy.
Our last obstacle must now be dealt with. It's up to you to do it.
This spring, they'll meet again for the last time. Lethal Weapon 4's Jet Li is Black Mask. Rated R.
So the plot pretty much is very much the equivalent to something like Kill Bill. You have somebody who tried to get out, and then now the people that worked with him in the past are now coming back to come and kill him, and he's a super soldier, part of a super secret soldier project. And I was wondering why it looked like he was wearing some stuff from the Green Hornet, but it turns out that this film takes a lot of inspiration from the Green Hornet. Black Mask wears a domino mask of the show's first cap in the style of Kato, played by Bruce Lee in the series. And the Black Mask is even compared to Kato in a news reporter scene. And pretty much like I said before, Jet Li, this was his first movie after Lethal Weapon 4 kind of introduced him to the world. And at least to American audiences, and this was their attempt to try to do what Jackie Chan and Chow Yun-Fat, try to bring them into the American zeitgeist, and it did work in the end. Like, it was a film that, compared to some of the other American transfers that they've done of this film, this probably is the best one of the American re-edits they've done, because this one, yeah, it takes some stuff out of it, but it's not as distracting and was not as insane as some of the Jackie Chan versions that New Line Cinema did. Right, that there's a hip-hop soundtrack to this, which really serves no purpose, but it's not distracting in any way, shape, or form. And some of the action sequences here are very well done. I mean, Jet Li shows he has a lot of charisma. It shows a lot of action potential. He really does show it in this movie. There's a lot of good action sequences. There's a lot of good setups. There's a lot of good storylines going on. It's a pretty enjoyable film. It's a fun little action film. I wouldn't say it's a classic by any means necessary, but it does a pretty good job of giving Jet Li a chance to show what he can do as a leading actor. And I think it pays off pretty well here. It's a well-made film. I'd say definitely check it out if you haven't seen it, but I would even say check the American version out, because it's not as bad as you would think it would be, especially considering that it doesn't have a lot of the same flaws that the Jackie Chan New Line transfers did when those came out. But this is still a really good film. I highly recommend checking it out. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream.
For one incredible night, everyone will fall in love at first sight. When magic lends fate
I hate thee and love Helen.
a hand.
Thou art as wise as thou art beautiful.
I love thee. By my life, I do. I say I love thee more than he can do. Where are these hearts?
Rupert Everett, Callista Flockhart, Kevin Kline, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Stanley Tucci.
How now, spirit?
From the greatest storyteller of all time comes the romantic comedy that proves
The course of true love never did run smooth.
Spite!
love
Go with me.
makes fools of us all.
Methought I was enamored of an ass. Thief of love!
What fools these mortals be. William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream.
I should say A Midsummer Night's Dream. I keep saying A Midsummer's Night's Dream, but it's not that. It's A Midsummer Night's Dream. And as I said before, it's based off of one of William Shakespeare's most memorable plays. And you have a cast that includes Kevin Kline, Michelle Pfeiffer, Rupert Everett, Stanley Tucci, Callista Flockhart. You have Anna Friel, Christian Bale, Dominic West also in there. And it's pretty much the same story you know from the story of A Midsummer Night's Dream. It's very ambitious, but at the same time, though, around this time, Hallmark was doing like a ton of different movies for like miniseries for NBC. Like they did like Gulliver's Travels, and then there was another one they did around this time. I can't remember what it was, but it was like I can't remember what it was, but Alice in Wonderland. And there were times when I watched this trailer and I thought to myself, you know, this really reminds me of something that you would see from a Hallmark NBC presentation, especially the Kevin Kline makeup job they do here. But as far as the film itself goes, it's fine for what it is. I think there was a lot of higher ambitions to this film that I think they let on. I think there was an idea that this could be something more engaging and much more interesting, but at times, there are times in this movie that, like I said, it kind of feels too much like you're watching an NBC TV miniseries produced by Hallmark or something like that, and there's definitely times when it feels like that. Even this has kind of a similar budget to that, like $11 million is not too high for a movie like this, but it looks like it has much higher aspirations and more higher visual effects budgets to it, but only costs $11 million, and if you can do that with $11 million, then you probably are doing something right, at least. This is directed and written by Michael Hoffman. We've talked about a couple of his movies in the past. Some of them really good films. Soap Dish, Restoration, One Fine Day. All solid films, and this is probably, like I said, the most ambitious one he's done yet, and I can see where they're definitely going with it. Do I think it worked all the way through? Not really, but the casting overall, I think, does carry it to another level, and it does feel like a faithful adaptation to Shakespeare's play of the same name. I mean, you have a strong cast overall here that makes this work. It's an ambitious film. It's a film that really took me by surprise. I really wasn't expecting a whole lot from it because I never really heard about it until... I take that back. I heard about it, but I never really saw it in full before. And when I finally got to see it, I was actually really impressed by what I saw. I think it is a decent little film. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too incredible. But I think it is something you should definitely check out. And by the way, you see like a white thing in my mouth. Piece of gum, so... getting off of that altogether, but wanted to let you know that I had a piece of gum in my mouth. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie to get away from this distraction. But next film, Trippin'. This really need to open up on a Wednesday. I mean, were you really that scared of Star Wars that much? You thought this movie was actually going to be something, so you decided to push it a couple of days away from Star Wars. But I don't get it. But you have a story here about this guy played by Dion Richmond. He's nearing the end of his high school days. His graduation slowly approaches. He's anxiously awaiting prom and has the hopes of going out with this girl, Cindy, the school's local beauty. And he tries to ask his parents to help him pay for prom. They begin nagging him after finding out he hadn't filled out one of his college applications, telling him that they won't give a dime until he fills one out along with those ones. He's an avid daydreamer and is always daydreaming, or tripping as they call it here, over everything. So it definitely feels like a little bit of a pretty much a black version of Doug in a way, but Doug at least was trying to do something unique and different with its storyline. This just feels like, it doesn't feel like it really knows what exactly it wanted to be. Does it want to be like a nice coming-of-age story, or does it want to be a raunchy comedy for the sake of being a raunchy sex comedy? And it can't really find that balance that it really needs to make it really stick for itself. I mean, the acting overall really isn't all that impressive. I think the only person who really does show a lot of potential in this actually shows a lot of effort in this, I should say, is Donald Faison. This also was one of Anthony Anderson's earliest film roles, too. And, I don't know, man. I mean, I saw this a long, long time ago, so I really don't know if it actually held up after all these years. But honestly, when I remember watching it, I remember really not liking it. And, I've really had no intentions of ever going back to it, quite honestly, so... probably not a good movie overall, as far as I remember. I remember it not being a good film, but I'm pretty sure if I go back to it now, I'll probably be thinking the same thing, but, maybe not. Maybe I actually will find something about it, but, I don't know. As far as I remember, I don't remember liking this film so much, so that's just my remembrance of that film. So, on to the next movie, and that is Franco Zeffirelli's Tea with Mussolini.
Academy Award winner Cher.
Making women as exciting as you.
Alas, no.
Academy Award nominee Judi Dench. Academy Award nominee Joan Plowright.
In Italy now.
Time Academy Award winner Maggie Smith.
We have to go. I'm sorry. Am I holding up the wall?
Academy nominee Lily Tomlin.
Come on, gals, we don't need to fight. We've got to live together. That means behaving like gentlemen.
Speak for yourself.
If you'll please go to the waiting platform, we really must get moving.
Don't be quiet, Major, whoever you are.
Tea with Mussolini.
This was actually Zeffirelli's second to last film he did as a director. It tells the story of a young Italian boy's upbringing by a circle of British and American women before and during the Second World War. You see the names already in there. Cher, Judi Dench, Joan Plowright, Maggie Smith, Lily Tomlin. Supposedly this is based on his Franco Zeffirelli's life, because he is a semi-autobiographical dramedy, it says on Wikipedia's page. I've never seen the film, so I can't really say for certain if it's any good or not, but you got some of the best actresses in the world. I mean, Cher, Judi Dench, Joan Plowright, Maggie Smith, Lily Tomlin. I mean, it's got to be worth it for just for that. I mean, probably not a great film that's going to be remembered as one of the great films of the year, but it's got to be worth it to get all those names in there. Still very much not in between the stretch of where they won Oscars to where they are now, just starring in movies that are just basically aimed at older women and have no real intentions of being good whatsoever. But I mean, this could be something. But again, I haven't seen it, so I can't really say too much about it. But it was one of the big new releases this week, so I thought I'd bring it up. So that's Tea with Mussolini. Now let's go to a classic film that came out this weekend in a re-release, and that is Wallace Shawn and Andre Gregory in Louis Malle's My Dinner with Andre.
I think that people have affairs. I mean, you know, in the theater, if you get good reviews, feel for a moment that you've got your hands on something. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a good feeling. But then that feeling goes quite quickly. And once again, you don't know quite what you should do next. What'll happen? Well, have an affair, and up to a certain point, you can really feel that you're on firm ground. You know, there's a sexual conquest to be made. There are different questions. Does she enjoy the ears being nibbled? How intensely can you talk about Schopenhauer at some elegant French restaurant? Whatever nonsense it is. It's all, I think, to give you the semblance that this firm earth, well, have a real relationship with a person that goes on for years. That's completely unpredictable.
The most fun you can spend watching two guys talking for 2.5 hours, talking about different things. You have fictionalized versions of Andre Gregory and Wallace Shawn. They're sharing a conversation at this restaurant in Manhattan. They cover different things such as experimental theater, the nature of life, Andre's spiritual existence with Wally's modest humanism. And really, it's an engaging film. Like I said before, it's pretty much just these two just talking about different things in life, like spirituality, near-death experiences, midlife crises. You know, it's something that a lot of people can relate to even by today's standards. And this was made back in 1981, over 40 years ago. And it was pretty much ahead of its time, really, because it's a fascinating film to watch. Like, it's really, you don't really expect a whole lot when you get in there, but as you watch the film and as you watch it go along, you get so invested in these conversations that these two guys have. Like, you really believe you're watching two friends watching them having this conversation, and it really is something special to see. It's a film that I'm glad they re-released it then so a new generation can get to see what this kind of looked like on a big screen. Would have been interesting to see how this played out. And, you know, this is a film that really, like I said, is something that really was way ahead of its time. It's a film that has a lot of inspiration in the years since its release. You know, Frasier did an episode in the first season pretty much covering this similar type of a situation. Like, it's basically Frasier and Niles in the coffee shop just talking, and they pretty much took the inspiration from that. It has a lot of inspiration all around. Like Animaniacs has had a lot of inspiration from it. The Simpsons had a lot of inspiration from it. There was one of Pixar's earliest shorts, The Adventures of Andre and Wally B. The title was literally taken from this. Family Guy's made references to it, so has Community. A lot of people have taken inspiration and references from this movie, and rightfully so, because it is a very fascinating film. You never really would expect that two people sitting in a restaurant would be this engaging and this enticing and this enjoyable to watch, but I'll be damned if it is. It's a film that I think a lot of people really should give a chance, and I am glad to see that over 40 years later, its legacy has continued to live on after all these years. It's a really great film. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it already. My Dinner with Andre. Fantastic, fantastic film. Our last movie is not so much. It's the underground comedy movie. Now, if you grew up watching Comedy Central after midnight in the early 2000s, you probably saw a commercial that looked exactly like this.
Trouble here.
The shocker comedy you've been waiting for. It's the Underground Comedy Movie, available only through this special TV offer. Damn funny, say critics, and the single most offensive movie ever made.
Oh, not now, honey, not now.
With supermodels in the job, with Gina Lee Nolan, Michael Clark Duncan, Slash, and Joey Buttafuoco.
I think that pretty much sums up everything you need to know about this movie. If one of your biggest stars is Joey Buttafuoco, then clearly you're not in for a lot of entertainment value here. I mean, if one of the selling points is watch these two supermodels go into the bathroom, it's just like, okay, like really, you're pushing it, guy. And this is Vince Offer. Vince Offer, of course, is the ShamWow guy. And basically, you have a story here where it consists of skits featuring celebrities in various roles based on concepts Offer had originally performed on a public access television show he had hosted. Stuff like Gillian Nolan posing as Marilyn Monroe, supermodels loudly used in the restroom, superhero named Dick Man who dresses in a penis costume and defeats his enemies, lesbians, by squirting them with semen. I mean, there's literally things that are called like Batman and Boob Watch, Virgin Hunter, Gay Virgin, I Hate L.A., The Godmother, The Adventures of Dick Man, Porno Review, Donna of the Dead is one of the other ones they mentioned here, and it's just kind of like the commercials pretty much tell you everything you need to know about this movie, and like, what more do I even need to say about it? It's a film that is trying to be a new Kentucky Fried Movie, but Kentucky Fried Movie is still really damn funny almost 50 years after its release, because like, that movie was at least trying, and when it did gross out humor, it was much smarter, it was much more clever. When it tried to add sex into it, it was put in very well, and it didn't feel like it was being forced in there to get like 20-year-olds to watch this film. This film is literally just that. It's a tasteless film. It's a ridiculous movie that just has absolutely nothing of value to it whatsoever. And guess what, kiddies? It's almost 15 years later, this dude made a sequel that was literally the exact same thing, inappropriate comedy. You probably have never heard of it, because you were probably so distracted by movie 43 to forget that this same thing came out around the exact same time. It's literally the same thing, the underground comedy movie, except, hey, we got bigger names this time. Instead of Michael Clark Duncan and Joey Buttafuoco, we've got Lindsay Lohan, because Lindsay Lohan will still be a respectable actress in 2013. We got Michelle Rodriguez. We got Rob Schneider. We've got an Academy Award winner in Adrian Brody, basically doing the same thing the same skit they did in the previous film, and his whole segment is nothing but homoerotic double entendres, and just like, you can't believe that somebody like Adrian Brody saw this and said, "Yeah, I'll be willing to do this." Like, it's literally the same thing from the other movie, except like they wanted to go more offensive, they wanted to be more insane with it, and shockingly, it's even worse than the underground comedy movie, which is like, I mean, just wow, this guy has no taste whatsoever, and like, I don't get it, man. I just don't get it with this guy. Like 2 movies he's made of the exact same thing, and both are absolutely horrible. And he's tried to sue people, and he's lost those cases. Like, he filed a suit against the Farrelly brothers because they claimed that 14 scenes from There's Something About Mary were lifted from his film. And the Farrelly brothers basically come out and said, "We've never heard of him. We never heard of this movie." And the case was basically dismissed on prejudice of a motion for summary judgment. And he kept suing people. He actually successfully sued Anna Nicole Smith for $4 million, claiming that she appeared to be in the movie but backed out over fears that the movie would be detrimental to her career. Because, I mean, this movie is going to be detrimental to your career, really? Like, it's ridiculous. It's one of the most bizarre, insanely bad movies you'll ever see. I mean, that trailer alone pretty much should tell you to stay the hell away from the underground comedy movie, and thankfully a lot of people did, but that didn't stop him from becoming a success with the ShamWow, and I guess he used that money to make the sequel that makes absolutely no sense. It was just a literal repeat of the movie he just did beforehand. It's just like, I mean, what more do you gotta say, man? The underground comedy movie, it is, it's every bit as bad as you think it is. I will give you that.
with the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force. You believe it's this boy?
You can see things before they happen.
He can help you.
The Force is unusually strong with him.
It was meant to help you.
Anakin! Come on, take it off!
Will I ever see you again?
What does your heart tell you?
Are you sure about this? Trusting our fate to a boy we hardly know?
Anakin Skywalker, meet Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I sense much fear in you.
The boy is dangerous. They all sense it. Why can't you?
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
So the story of Star Wars The Phantom Menace is that it's set 32 years before the original trilogy, 13 years before the formation of the Galactic Empire, during the era of the Galactic Republic. It follows Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson, and his apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Ewan McGregor, as they try to protect Queen Padme Amidala, played by Natalie Portman, of Naboo, in hopes of securing a peaceful end to an interplanetary trade dispute. And joined by Anakin Skywalker, Jake Lloyd from Jingle All the Way, a young slave who has unusually strong natural powers of the Force, they simultaneously contend with the mysterious return of the Sith. And of course, I don't need to tell you that Anakin Skywalker is eventually going to turn into Darth Vader. And this will be the only time you ever see Jake Lloyd, because in the next film, he's Hayden Christensen. And like I said before, when this movie came out, this was the movie of its generation. This was a movie that everyone thought was going to take the world by storm before it even came out, which it did. I mean, like I said, back in November of '98, when that first teaser came out that we just showed you there were stories about people who just paid to movies like The Waterboy, the Rugrats movie, A Bug's Life, only to see the trailer and then got up and left. That's how big the anticipation was. And when the movie came out, the overall general reaction from a lot of people was that they really liked it. It was a film that was highly praised. Siskel and Ebert did, Roger Ebert, I would say, well, it was still Siskel and Ebert even after Gene Siskel died, but Roger Ebert did a full episode with, I think, a bunch of other critics for doing The Phantom Menace. I think he also did the same thing with Eyes Wide Shut, too. And we'll get to that one later on in the year, but you're going to see some reactions here, and I want you to pay close attention to the last guy here, because that's pretty much going to tell you everything you need to know about the legacy that this movie has had since its release. So watch this, then pay close attention to the end.
This is a huge deal for me. I was sick from school today.
I want to be the guy coming out of the theater. It was great! You know, that's who I want to be.
I thought there was going to be people here already, and it turned out there wasn't being. I was like, wow, I'm the first one.
Well, it's Star Wars. It's like the original trilogy was just so phenomenal. People have been awaiting this for like 16 years.
It's grabbing history and maybe going with it and becoming part of it and giving a story to our children.
It's going to be one of the many wonders of the world. There are now 8 wonders of the world, one of them being this movie.
We've been waiting since the last one came out for 16 years, so this is a big thing. I mean, we've been waiting a long time. It's time to get back into it. It's the event of the whole thing.
I've been waiting 15 years since Return of the Jedi came out to see the prequel.
There's no way it's going to be a disappointment.
Are there any of you that think this is going to be a lousy movie?
I feel like, I don't know, like it's exciting. It's going to be going to the first show of like Phantom Menace, and I don't know, that's all I can say. Thanks.
10 loved it, 7 liked it or thought it was okay, and 2 are no longer Star Wars fans.
Fantastic.
Go see it as quick as you can.
It was better than all of them.
I think the lightsaber battles were the greatest.
It was good, dude. It was really good.
So worth it. So worth it.
They're gonna love it. They're gonna go nuts. It was amazing.
I couldn't get enough of it. I want to see it again already.
It was amazing. It was everything I thought it was going to be and more.
Non-stop.
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 I can't wait to see it in 3 hours. I'll be lining up straight in the line again.
A lot of action, a lot of noise. It was cool.
I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, it was really good, must say. I think it's going to be the hugest thing. The hugest thing.
It was intense. It was incredible. I loved it. It was awesome.
We got tickets for the 9 a.m. show. We're going to stick around and see it again.
I thought it was better than Return of the Jedi, personally, so did a good job.
I like the special effects. I thought Lucas did a really good job.
I think that little Anakin Skywalker, and everyone's going to say it, stole that movie.
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
God, I'd put my feet up if I could.
It's fantastic. Good special effects, good story. Lives up to the originals.
A very good movie. I believe the kids are going to love it.
It is worth every minute of it. We've waited 16 years for this moment. An unbiased opinion, how was the film?
I'd give it a definite thumbs up.
It was like new because all the guys were new and you didn't really know how everything fit together before.
So intense. I mean, my heart was beating. It's still beating now. And I just screamed, literally.
What do you think, Cole? With the white?
Yeah.
And who's your favorite?
Darth Maul.
Pandemonium. Everybody was out there just screaming, yelling. When Lucasfilm logo came up and 20th Century Fox came up, that was the best.
I like Darth Vader.
Oh, okay.
He's a little kid. Do you want to marry him?
What?
You want to marry him?
You don't want to marry him?
It'll be a great movie 20 years from now. It'll be part of 6 great movies. Unless the next 2 really suck, but I don't think they will.
What'd you think of it?
I think it was an excellent movie. I think Mr. Lucas did a fabulous job. Special effects were wonderful, and the storyline was wonderful. And I'm gonna probably come back and watch it a couple more times.
Like that long-eared alien dude. I mean, he always messed up, but he ended up helping his army and stuff. I thought it was pretty good.
Thumbs way down.
You didn't like it?
No, I think I deserve a public apology from George Lucas.
That guy knew. That guy knew right from the get-go that, yeah, this was a gigantic disappointment. But at the time, we all bought it. We all bought into it. I know I bought into it when I saw it for the first time. I didn't see it in theaters, unfortunately. I waited for it to come out on video. And, you know, I mean, what else do you need to say about The Phantom Menace at this point that hasn't already been said in the years since it's come out? It's a gigantic disappointment on a number of levels. Yeah, the visual effects can still look very impressive to this day, but I've said it, as I've always said, the visuals don't make the movie. I mean, you cannot just rely solely on visuals and not expect a normal audience member to look at your product and go, what else do you got? And then you have nothing else to work with here. And there is a decent mix of practical and CG effects here. I mean, you got to give them credit for that. I will give them credit for that. Yeah, the action sequences are nicely done. The design of Darth Maul is really cool, but it doesn't help when the villain can be killed off so quickly before we even get an idea how much of a threat he is, which he really was not. I mean, he looked cool. He had the double-edged lightsaber. I mean, that was awesome, but he dies pretty quickly. Like, they took him out pretty damn easily. I mean, yeah, you got Liam Neeson, you got Ewan McGregor, you got Samuel L. Jackson among your cast, but you also have Jake Lloyd as a young Darth Vader. And listen to that for a second. You're telling me that Darth Vader, voiced by this big black guy, James Earl Jones, grew from the kid that played Arnold Schwarzenegger's son in Jingle All the Way. Get the hell out of here. And the less I have to say about Jar Jar Binks, the better. I mean, honestly, do I even need to say anything more about The Phantom Menace? It's just a terrible movie. It's a gigantic disappointment. It failed to live up to all the hype they set up after all these years. And it's just not a good movie. And I'm sorry. I know that I've said this on many other shows in the past and on the website as well, but I would gladly take the sequel trilogy over anything from the prequels, because the prequels were bad from the beginning, but towards the end, they were kind of finding that groove again in Revenge of the Sith, and then they kind of ruined that with the final couple minutes of that film, trying to wrap everything up. At least with the sequel trilogy, you still got 2.5 solid films, and then Rise of Skywalker, which was completely destroyed by the internet, basically, after what they did with The Last Jedi. Disney was pretty much screwed in what to do with The Rise of Skywalker. I'm telling you, they did not. That was not supposed to be the intention for The Rise of Skywalker. They got the internet involved, and they just completely ruined whatever plan they had to do with that. And I still blame the internet for ruining that, because Star Wars fans on the internet really have no idea what the hell they want. I'm sorry, that's just what it is. But I mean, really, there's not much more I can add to The Phantom Menace there that hasn't already been said, and I'm sorry, after all these years, I still don't like it. I still really do not like it, but I will give it this much. At least it's better than the worst Star Wars movie ever made, which comes after this, which is Attack of the Clones, but that's 3 years down the road, so we'll eventually delve into that once we get down there. So, is there anything else I really need to add to this? Probably not, but, I mean, to sum it all up, and like I said, it's really a disappointment. You expect so much better. You don't expect it to have as many bad elements to it that this movie has to it. But like I said, some of the visual effects are really cool. Some of the action sequences are nicely done. They have a good cast overall. I mean, it's a bad Star Wars movie, but it's not the worst Star Wars movie. That'll be with Attack of the Clones when we get to that one. But yeah, not much more to say about that. That's The Phantom Menace. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. Ooh, excuse me. And that is The Love Letter.
A love letter. She thinks it's from him. He assumes it's from her. And life in this simple town
Nice spot.
is about to get complicated.
I think I just got lucky. I don't understand why you know it's for you and it's not for me.
The love letter. Dad, what's the kid?
I got him. Okay. Daddy's gonna go play with his fire hose. That doesn't sound right.
Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, May 21st.
Well, I don't know, Ellen. I think I can think of a couple of reasons why that love letter was not for you, especially when you consider that this came out a year after you came out of the closet, and that's a whole other story altogether. But, yeah, DreamWorks decided, you know what? We don't care that Star Wars is going to come out this weekend. We have our own counter-programming here with the love letter, and surely it's going to clean up the box office, and it didn't. It bombed pretty hard. It only opened in 5th place with like $2.5 million. It didn't receive a lot of good reviews at all. It was like panned by critics, and it was completely forgotten almost immediately because there was a much better romantic comedy that came out not too long after this in Notting Hill. And in fact, when that came out, this thing was already gone out of people's minds altogether. And so what is the story of The Love Letter? And basically the story of the film is that you have this town that is completely the power of words and image to open hearts. You have this woman named Helen who runs miles a day to burn off energy. She's an emotional celibate. She's going through the post at her shop. She finds a romantic and poetic letter through the couch cushions, unsigned, and thinks it's for her. It melts her resistance to feelings, and soon she undertakes an affair with Johnny, a collegiate employee. He sees the letter and thinks she wrote it to him. He quotes some of it, so she thinks he wrote it to her. In the background are Helen's longtime friend George, who loves her and her mother, and abruptly left on a long month's journey. Discovering who actually wrote the letter brings insight and promise, and you could pretty much see where this is going. This is not an intriguing story whatsoever, and the only notable thing about this movie is that this was actually the last film Kate Capshaw did before she retired from acting a couple years later. But you have Ellen DeGeneres also in here, Tom Everett Scott, Tom Selleck, Jack Black as an uncredited cameo, Julianne Nicholson, who was on Ally McBeal, or was going to be on Ally McBeal at some point before, years after this movie came out, Gloria Stewart from Titanic. Was that her? Yeah, it was her from Titanic. I got so confused here. I thought Janine Garofalo was in this movie, but that was another movie that she was in. We already talked about, The Matchmaker. I said that on last week's episode, on the last episode we did, so I apologize for that. But there's nothing really new about this movie. It's a Lifetime movie blown up for the big screen because you got all these big stars in here. And there's really nothing there. There's nothing about this whatsoever. You know what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of third-act breakups. There's going to be a reconciliation at the end. You're probably going to get a scene where they have to go to an airport or to a bus or save somebody from leaving their life forever. And you know where this is going to go from here. There's really not much more I can add to this. This is just a lazy movie. Avoid it like the plague. So, on to the last film, man. Now, we've got a nice little sandwich this week. We got a sci-fi sandwich packed in with a little bit of a romantic comedy in between because we looked at Star Wars The Phantom Menace. But the other big sci-fi franchise said, you know what, we can still open something in limited release and hopefully get it and the buzz building on it. The Star Trek people did a documentary called Trekkies.
Would you like cheese on a superstar or without? Oh! Without cheese? Have you ever served a Klingon before?
Yes.
We actually take turns being different characters, and it helps our
relationship, yeah?
Yeah, it does.
How's it going out with different people? Trekkies.
Yeah, I am one of those people. Oh, my God.
This is, of course, about the devoted fans of Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek. Denise Crosby, Tasha Yar from The Next Generation is the presenter in here. Contains interviews with Star Trek devotees, most commonly known as Trekkies. The fans range from people who dress as Klingons to members of Brent Spiner's fan club, including a club that is producing a Star Trek movie of their own. It includes many Star Trek actors and fans, including Barbara Adams, the Whitewater scandal trial juror who arrived in court in her Starfleet uniform, and another prominent profilee was Gabriel Corner, who attained minor celebrity status as a result of his role in the film. And it's a very interesting documentary. Like, I'm not really a Trekkie per se. I mean, I do like Star Trek a lot, but to show these people going in as extreme as they do in this film, it's pretty fascinating. Like, it isn't a movie that really exploits them as, like, really terrible people. These are just people who like Star Trek so much and incorporate this into their normal lifestyle, and it's pretty funny at times. There are a lot of elements in here that had me laughing a lot when I saw this, and it is a well-done documentary. It's one that I don't think a lot of people really know about all that much, but it was a big hit when it came out. It was both a critical and financial success. They even made a sequel that came out after this in 2004. That one basically showing what the Star Trek fans all over the world, and I think it just really shows you the lasting legacy that Star Trek has had all these years. Like, it's a film that really has stood a series that has stood the test of time, has advanced with the test of time, and even today, like, how many Star Trek series we have on Paramount Plus right now and on TV? I mean, they're all over the place. Like, Star Trek still has a loyal fan base, even though they're not making as many movies as they used to do. But this is definitely something to watch. Even if you're not a big Trek fan, you can still find a lot of stuff in here to really appreciate about it. Like, sometimes it can get very cringeworthy, some of it's a little bit uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's overall very fun in the end. I definitely say it's something you should definitely check out. Trekkies.
That's my favorite movie star.
On June 18th, the world's most famous actress and an ordinary shopkeeper come together for the most unlikely romance of the year. Julia Roberts.
Anytime I've tried anything normal, it's just been a disaster.
Hugh Grant. I live in Notting Hill, you live in Beverly Hills.
I'm also just a girl standing in front of a boy, asking him to love her.
Notting Hill. This film is not yet ready.
So this is a story you've pretty much seen over and over again. Two people meet. The big difference is that the two people meeting, one is a British bookseller who doesn't really have much of an identity to him. He's pretty much a nobody. And then this famous American actress, played by Julia Roberts, comes into his shop, and they eventually build a romance together. And this is something that's actually been the influence for a couple different things. One notably, the TV series I'm With Her, which ran for about a season on ABC, was really good, and it was a shame that it didn't last too long. It was kind of in that middle between when ABC had all those family comedies like Life with Bonnie, 8 Simple Rules, Less Than Perfect, which wasn't really a family comedy, but they were trying to establish a comedy block, and that was in there. And like I said, it only lasted one season, unfortunately, but it was actually a pretty fun show all the way through. This is a fun concept overall. It's one that we've seen done to death. You know kind of exactly where it's going to go, but this is when I talk about the things like, yeah, you can have a predictable story, a predictable plot, a predictable setup, but if you have good writers and good actors to make it work, it'll make up for it in the end. And, you know, you got Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant, and their chemistry together is just top-notch. And the writing of Richard Curtis, who did 4 Weddings and a Funeral before this, and this is directed by Roger Michell, who, let me see what, I can't remember if he did something. Well, he did a couple other notable movies after this. Changing Lanes with Ben Affleck and Samuel L. Jackson. He did Morning Glory with Harrison Ford and Rachel McAdams. He did a very underrated Bill Murray film, Hyde Park on Hudson, with Bill Murray as Franklin Roosevelt, which is a phenomenal film. If you haven't seen that one, definitely check that one out. But he's a really good director. He's made a lot of good stuff, and like I said, it is a very generic story. Honestly, we've seen this done over and over again, But it's a fun fantasy too. I mean, let's be honest. We've all had that fantasy of meeting somebody, and that person turns out to be a celebrity, and you want to be in a relationship with them. I mean, I know I've had my fair share of dreams of that happening. I'm sure you folks out there have too, or maybe I'm the crazy one. But be honest with yourselves. You've had that fantasy before. But here's a movie that just basically shows you what that would be like in a comedy like this, and the writing overall is very funny, and it also has a good cast overall with Hugh Bonneville and Rhys Ifans in this film as well, having a lot of good moments in here. And like I said, the story is not really all that new or anything creative, but as long as you have something that really is well done and has actors and a director, a writer that can make it work in its own unique way, then it works out in the end. And sure enough, this thing did work out for itself in the end. It was one of the big hits of the year, one of 2 hits for Julia Roberts in 1999. We'll get to the other one when we get to Runaway Bride. But this one's definitely the best of the 2 films. I mean, this is really a solid film, an overall enjoyable film overall. It's a great romantic comedy, a fun little romantic comedy. I really like it a lot. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. You might actually be pleasantly surprised by it. Even if you're not the biggest rom-com person, you can still find a lot to appreciate about this film. So that is Notting Hill, so let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is The 13th Floor.
Scientists have created a portal to a simulated universe.
Think one of them units crawled up an extension cord and killed its maker?
But what they couldn't anticipate...
It's all about it. Murder.
...is that the experiment...
This is a mistake. These people are real.
...would have a mind of its own. The 13th floor.
You could call it the end of the world.
Rated R. Opens everywhere May 28th.
So the story here is you have this computer scientist who's discovered something extremely important. He's about to tell the discovery of to his colleague, but knowing something is after him, the old man leaves a letter in the computer-generated parallel world his company has created, which looks like the 30s, with seemingly real people with real emotions. The scientist is then eventually murdered in our real world the same night, and his colleagues is suspected. And Douglas discovers a bloody shirt in his bathroom, and he cannot recall what he was doing the night the Fuller was murdered. So he logs into the system in order to find the letter, but has to confront the unexpected. The truth is harsher than he could ever imagine. This has the potential to be somewhat of an interesting idea. It has a pretty decent, mostly unknown cast at the time. I mean, not a lot of people knew who Craig Bierko was. Not a lot of people knew who Gretchen Mol was, or Vincent people knew who Vincent D'Onofrio was. And Dennis Haysbert, this was a couple years before he became the president on 24. Alison Lohman's also in here. One of her early film roles, Shiri Appleby, Armin Mueller-Stahl. So there's a decent amount of names in here. There is a good idea to the film overall, but the film itself is really just a mess of a film. This is one of those Roland Emmerich-produced films. This is based off of a novel and a miniseries of the same name, a novel called Samicron 3, and then the miniseries was called Wool on a Wire. And it just felt like it was lost in the middle of all these other different sci-fi films, you know, stuff like The Matrix, and for lack of, I mean, Star Wars: Force Awakens, that'd be a different thing altogether. Star Wars: The Phantom Menace coming out around the same time. So this was going to get lost in the shuffle regardless, and it's not a bad-looking film visually, and also kind of is reminiscent to what David Cronenberg was trying to do earlier in the year with Existence, which I guess was a fine film overall, but there was a lot of potential in here. Just a lackluster script, of a confusing plot that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It kind of falls into the same basic problem that a lot of original sci-fi films fail to do. Is keeping your investment over the course of the movie while also trying to do something unique and different, which a lot of sci-fi films, original sci-fi films, don't really do a whole lot, unfortunately. I mean, we just had The Creator come out, which is very much an original concept. It's not based on any IP or anything, but the biggest problem that a lot of people have with it is that it steals from a lot of stuff here and doesn't really do anything new with it. I haven't seen it myself yet, so I can't really say for certain, but I will get to it eventually. But there's potential in this movie. There was potential with the story, potential with the cast overall here. Just the potential just doesn't live up to it in the very end. It's a film that just kind of like exists and doesn't really do a whole lot to make it stand out on its own. You can definitely tell that Roland Emmerich's name is all over this movie, even though he's not the director of it nor the writer, he's just the producer of it, but it's all over this film. And it's a shame because there's a lot of potential that could have been done with this idea, but as it is, wasted potential. So that's the 13th floor for you.